Good morning and welcome to the Gospel of this morning. And we're in the book of Acts and we're coming to the 25th part. Well, a new chapter begins and also a new part in church history. A man makes his appearance who will write almost 1/3 of the New Testament. God uses the most unlikely people to bring to pass his purpose and will concerning humanity. Now this man was Saul of Tarsus, one of the worst persecutors of the early church. Now let us read from Acts chapter 9, verses 1 and 2. And Saul, yet breathing and threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest and desired letters to Damascus, to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them to Jerusalem. Well, first subtitle, and Saul yet breathing out threatenings. Well, we met this person earlier in chapter 8, verse 1, where he was consenting to Stephen's death. Religious fanatics are the worst kind among humans, especially when their power is threatened. This man was sitting at the feet of Gamaliel as a young man, and was infected with a rigid Pharisaic spirit. He was everything that God was speaking against: national pride, religious fanaticism, murder, and an unteachable spirit. After sowing fear into every Christian's disciple in Jerusalem and making a name for himself as the chief persecutor, his appetite for violence was not yet satisfied. He went to the high priest in Jerusalem and he asked for letters giving him authority to arrest Jews in Damascus, men and women, and bring them to Jerusalem for trial. And then God intervened. And we read it in Acts chapter 9, verse 3. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus. And suddenly there shone round about him a light from heaven, and he fell to the earth, and he heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to prick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told you what thou must do. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. And Saul arose from the earth. And when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight. Neither did he eat nor drink. Well, he came here to Damascus. Sometimes I think that God led him, that is Saul, right into a trap. He was on a journey to persecute the saints in Damascus, and the Lord was waiting for him, just a little way before the city. It is amazing how Jesus can wait for us at the most inconvenient places and inconvenient time, almost at the destination. And he has another plan for us. A great light shone from heaven, suddenly appeared and shone right at Saul. Some of us had our first encounter with the Lord this way. I never saw a great light, but felt the chastising hand of God. I will bring you to your knees and take away all that you have worked for, he spoke to me. And how I deserved it. But then, a few weeks later, a light shone into my heart, and hearing for the first time a song under the title, A New Commandment I Give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Well, it stirred something in my heart. When God makes a beginning, well, he's quite capable of finishing it all the way to the end. Saul was brought down from the high horse and blinded in both eyes. And he fell down to his knees, and he heard a voice, it says. Jesus said, I have not come to save the righteous, but the sinners. And Saul thought he was righteous and believed to do God a favor by persecuting the saints. In John chapter 16 and verse 2 we read, they shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh when whosoever kills you will think that he does God service. This is Saul of Tarsus to the T. But he will not be the last. After the massacre of Bartholomew's Day, where about 100,000 Protestants were murdered by Popish dragoons, Pope Gregory III, August 1572, celebrated a Te Deum on hearing the news. He called it good news. Ordered a jubilee and a solemn processions to thank God for exterminating so many Protestants. He even struck a medal to commemorate the happy event and hung a painting of the massacre in the Vatican. But for Saul, a new chapter began in his life when he heard his name called out of heaven. Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? Persecuting the saints of God means persecuting Jesus. This is how close we are to Christ, by being in him. Who are you, Lord? Fallen to the ground, and the shining light was not enough, but as the voice reached his ears, his address was simply, Lord. Now, it is the first sign of submission. Submission is setting authority in order. Saul is not sure who was talking to him. Was it an angel? Who was it? And then the answer comes, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It was like a thunderclap, a sting to his heart. You are Jesus, the man from Galilee in heaven? Yes. That is who I am. And another thing, it is hard to kick against the pricks. You remember Gamaliel, what he said to the chief priests when they wanted to kill the apostles. If it is of God, you cannot do anything against it unless you kick in vain. Saul must have learned some good things from his teacher, because a transformation had already begun, and we see it in the next heading. Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? I wish we would get the lesson instead of constantly telling God what we want to do for him. Let us ask the question, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? God knew the potential slumbering in Saul's heart. He had a zeal for God, although it was channeled in the wrong direction. He just needed a reorientation. We see this in the answer that he gives to the Lord. What do you want me to do? Not only did he come up with the right words, but also did he recognize immediately who Jesus was. He is Lord. And then it's written, arise and go into the city, and it will be told you what to do. Well, there outside on the Damascus road, it was not the right place and the right time to reveal Saul's future to him. The present experience was already too much for this man to digest. A few minutes ago, he was still planning how to destroy the church, and now he was confronted with the head of the church, the Son of God himself, being blinded by a light, a bright light, and a voice coming out of heaven. The Lord had already prepared a man in Damascus who would reveal the next step for him. And the men standing with him were speechless. Saul did not travel alone, but with an entourage that assisted him. He needed some cloud to bind the disciples that he had to bring to Jerusalem. I presume that he was accompanied by men with swords and muscle. They also heard the voice and were speechless, but saw no one. There was their leader lying on the ground, smitten with that great light, and speaking to the unseen voice. And they went over to the fallen man and lifted him up and set him on his feet. But as he opened his eyes, he could see no man. He was blind Now we remember the man that was healed of blindness in John's Gospel, saying, I was blind, but now I see. And here we have a man who could say, I could see, but now I'm blind. It is not amazing how the Lord has work at some time to make us blind to things around us and then awaken us to what God wants us to see. They took him by the hand and they led him to Damascus. It is a little humbling as this great theologian to be led by his ordinary bunch of people, even taken by the hand to bring him to Damascus. Where would he go at this time? Like-minded people would put him up gladly in their home, but they were previously like-minded. Was he not someone of importance, sent to the synagogues in Damascus on the orders of the high priest in Jerusalem? But now something happened and something changed. There was no purpose any longer in his journey. Saul was in limbo. His world had crumbled, his mind confused, and on top of that, he was blind. It is not what happened to many of us when we realized that we had to forsake the old and the new was not yet fully revealed. It is a terrible state to be in this limbo, not knowing what the future holds. Looking back, we can see how the Lord did not just leave us in an uncertain place of confusion, but he revealed to us the perfect way of salvation. He was 3 days without sight, it says. One would expect that Luke would write, and he prayed. How could he pray? God had just revealed to him that he had been wrong all the time, so wrong that he became a murderer. So he fasted. He drank no water and did not eat anything. He was just waiting. To him it looked as it would have been better for him to be dead than alive, facing God's wrath. But we will soon see the extended hand of God's love and forgiveness when he yielded to the commandment of God. And this is our lesson. You see, in that blinded moment, when we begin to contemplate our own sins and our own wrongdoings, we need to find something that is forgiveness in our hearts and extend it to those that we have done wrong. Until this far today, may God bless you. Amen.